Today is a significant milestone for the Alamo Plan, and it's one of many yet to come. Our guests today represent an unprecedented partnership of the private sector, a major state agency, the Texas legislature, the city of San Antonio, and everybody has joined together to honor and preserve a place and key moments in history that has made our state great and will continue to make it great. None of these leaders need much of an introduction to an audience like you, informed and involved Texans. You all know San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg. You knew him as a city councilman before he was mayor. You know him now as a leader who has engaged people and communities and most recently helped guide this city together with our county judge and this whole region through a horrific pandemic. He is an important partner in advancing the Alamo Plan for our city and our state. Mayor Ron Nirenberg.
Thank you, Will. Good morning, everyone. Commissioner, Lieutenant Governor, the city of San Antonio welcomes all of those who are visiting, and welcome home to the Alamo for those of you who are from here. There is much to be said about the history here before there was an Alamo, but in many ways, the Alamo is a birthplace of our wide-ranging culture. This is where the Spanish chose to stake the defense of their territory against the French and the British. It's home to our mission culture, our indigenous culture, and our religious traditions. It's the origin of our military values as Military City, USA. It was a commercial center before San Antonians joined together. And let the record show they were mostly women San Antonians to preserve our past for the generations of the future. It's okay to clap. Madam Secretary. While our culture and history are diverse and range over more than 3 centuries, most of the world immediately recognizes this place in San Antonio for the 13 days of siege in 1836. Let's thank the General Land Office and Alamo Trust for their vision in building this replication of the southwest corner of the Alamo Plaza, what Green B. Jameson once referred to as Fortress Alamo, although pretty clear that was just in jest. The Alamo was no fortress then. Located on a prairie, its adobe walls were built to stop the arrows, not the cannonballs of then modern warfare. But it had the spirit of San Antonio that would become the spirit of Texas. Never surrender, victory or death. The men and women of the Alamo of 1836 were a community like few others, bound together in mutual support for a cause so much greater than themselves, willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to advance that cause. We honor them today by dedicating this place, recreating these artifacts to help their descendants in blood and in spirit understand the challenge they faced and the sacrifice they made for us. God bless you all. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor to join you.
Thank you for those words, Ron. And next, we're going to welcome our land commissioner. Everybody knows him as George P. He's a native Texan, a Rice graduate, UT Law School, Navy Reserve veteran, served in Afghanistan, has been a businessman, a public servant, and along with Mayor Nirenberg, he is the co-chair of the Partnership for Restoring and Honoring the Alamo. He has worked on this project every day of his public service, and thanks to his leadership, the Alamo has benefited from an unprecedented level of state support. And Commissioner, let me also apologize. I oftentimes get mistaken for you, and so there's a number of pictures when they think they're having a picture with the commissioner, and I do a gig 'em, and I'm sorry for that. But I try to honor the name. So those, San Antonio, help me welcome our land commissioner, George P. Bush.
It's great to be with you, Will. It's great to be with you, Mayor, Councilwoman Biagran, great partners that we work with every single day at the land office on behalf of these hallowed grounds here on the Alamo. I especially want to thank our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. There's nobody in the state capitol that cares more about Texas history, that cares more about this holy shrine that we honor today than Dan Patrick. So we thank you for joining us today. You know, it's been said that every state has a story, but it's Texas that truly has a legend. And that legend starts here about 190 years ago, where brave men stood the line and were willing to sacrifice everything for the simple cause of liberty and freedom. It was soldiers that stood up against tyranny. It was ordinary men that took up arms and did extraordinary things. And it was brave heroes who gave the last measure for the idea that freedom can live in our lifetime. In my work as land commissioner, nothing is more important than preserving our state's rich history. To do so without apology, to do so without excuses, and to do it without a filter. It's the least that we can do for those brave soldiers in today's day and age. And in the past few years, despite maybe what you've read or what you've heard, there's been great progress here on the grounds of the Alamo. For the first time since 1836, the battlefield is united because of our partnership with the city of San Antonio. Vehicle traffic that used to travel across here is in the process of potentially stopping right over the grounds that soldiers and revolutionaries gave for this idea of freedom. We're beginning to restore and preserve the two original buildings from 1836, the two remaining that we have, which is important to make sure that we have that for our children and our grandchildren so that they can visit. And we're also restoring the vast amount of cannons that were abandoned on the battlefield. After restoring them, bringing them back to their rightful home here on the grounds of the Alamo. Today we're going to continue telling that story on behalf of defenders and their ancestors, some of whom I had a chance of meeting with today, including Toribio Lozoya's family that will be honoring us with their presence today. The 18-pounder will offer visitors, the millions of Texans, non-Texans, people from all over the world, a chance to come up close and personal to not only an Alamo cannon, but a Texas-sized cannon. A recreation of what we think was Colonel William Barrett Travis' response to Santa Anna's request for surrender. And we know exactly what he said in response. In many ways, when that cannon was shot, 6 days before the Declaration of Independence was signed on the Washington on the Brazos, that was truly the birth of the idea of Texas and the idea of freedom being born in the hearts of our people. And that's the moment that we say once and for all that we will never stand for tyranny, not then and not now. So I congratulate everyone involved in this project in making today happen, this incredible, momentous occasion. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless the great state of Texas.
And now it's a pleasure to welcome someone who has become a friend, who's a mentor to me. She is also a member of the Alamo Trust Board of Directors, the former Secretary of State, someone who has tirelessly worked to improve our communities, our state, our country. Hope Andrade.
This morning, I have the honor of introducing Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. There's one word that comes to mind when you think of Dan Patrick: liberty. Is it any wonder he has been such a fan of the Alamo? He has cared for the Alamo since he was a child, wearing his Davy Crockett coonskin cap. And his feelings deepened on his first visit to Texas as a broadcaster years later. Governor Patrick has served Texas and the Alamo all of his public life, seeking to repair the church and Long Barrack and reclaim the footprint of the original fort as much as possible. Governor, thank you for your love of the Alamo and for joining us this morning. We're honored with your presence, sir. We're proud to present this replication of the Lozoya House and the 18-pounder cannon, because it will continue to tell this incredible story of the 1836 battle. We look forward to working with you as we build the greatest historic site in America. Lieutenant Dan Patrick.
This is an exciting day for me. In 1979, I was a young sportscaster. There is another Dan Patrick I know, makes a lot more money than I do as lieutenant governor. I was down here. I told our Representative Gervin that I came here covering the Washington Bullets at the time, playing the San Antonio Spurs and George Gervin. And my first visit to Texas was for that playoff series, and the first thing I did was head to the Alamo, and I still have that photograph with my camera crew, and little did I think I'd ever move to Texas or be lieutenant governor or be a part of this great place in our history, not just for Texas, but for the United States and for the world. I mean, that's how Phil Collins came up with his collection. I asked him once when he came to the Capitol, Phil, and by the way, he and I are about the same age, but playing on the road all those years he did is tough. I can just tell you, tough on him. I said, Phil, where did you become such an Alamo fan? He said, I started watching Fess Parker on Davy Crockett. I said, so did I. He said, then I went to see the Alamo with John Wayne 100 times. I said, so did I. And I have quite a collection. I have a 12-pound cannonball from the Alamo, 2 Travis letters, and a number of other artifacts. And he said, and I have a bigger collection. And now I know who I was losing out to on all those bids at the auction. It was to Phil Collins, who had a whole lot more money. I want you to picture this right now. Go back 185 years. And depending on the story that you read, it was 185 men, 187, 200. We don't know the exact number, but you often hear 185. And I thought about that number today. 185 years ago, 185 men on this hallowed ground. They gave their life over the next 13 days so that we could all stand here today with freedom and liberty. Picture, if you will, the hotel, and I can't see under the tent, but the hotel's not there, and this building's not there. There's nothing but hills, just hills, rolling hills, and a river. And oh yes, thousands of soldiers under the command of Santa Anna. And there were soldiers dressed like these men here, inside these walls. Right here, the first cannon shot was likely fired. Just about 50 to 70 yards from here. Later, Jim Bowie would, according to history, lie dying in an infirmary before he was killed. And behind you up there, where the federal building is, that's where Travis was when he lost his life. And Crockett and the Tennesseans were over there, diagonally, next to the Alamo, coming out to the front wall. People came from all over the country to fight for Texas. They didn't know much about Texas. Davy Crockett had never been here. But he heard about our fight for liberty and freedom, and he wanted to be a part of that. This story stands for every person who has fought for liberty in this country and freedom, and in every country around the world, and still fighting for freedom today. It all started here. It's really started here. This is the story of Texas. And I believe, you know, we've added 10 million people to Texas, 10 million in the last 20 years. And I like to say that no one ever moves to Texas. They arrive here and Texas moves into them. They buy their cowboy boots. By the way, I have to have the Alamo on my cowboy boots. I just want to let you know. When I designed my coin, you know, everyone has a coin when they get elected, you know, that they hand out. My coin is not a round coin. It's the Alamo. I love this place. And I thank the mayor who has worked so hard with the state. And I thank George P. Bush as land commissioner who has worked so hard with the legislature. We've already invested about $150 million so far. I asked what the cost of the project might be today to finish it in the next 4 years or so. And they said it might be $200 to $300 million. I believe the Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature will be stepping up to the plate to help fund a large portion of this great site for you, Mayor and Land Commissioner, and for Texas. This is going to be, and I will as I led the fight to get the first $150 million, because the Lieutenant Governor does get to sign off on the budget, we'll lead the fight to get the other funding. I've seen the new plan. I love the plan. San Antonio is going to love the plan. Texas will love the plan. America will love the plan. We will see millions come, Mayor, in the years ahead. Not just for the Alamo experience, but for the experience of San Antonio and the history that goes with this. You know, when you go to Boston, you can go to various historic places, but people come to see the whole city of Boston. And I want to make an investment in San Antonio so it's an entire experience of Texas history here, because there's so much history in this great city. So today, I'm only speaking for me. Only for me. I'm just one guy in the legislature. But I feel with the plan that they have laid out, and they're still working on it, it's such a great plan. I believe the city and the land commissioner, I think we're all in sync. We may not agree 100%, but I think we're all on the same page. I think today is the true liftoff day, 185 years ago, from the time that 185 men lost their lives. Today is the liftoff to get this project truly started and finished so all Texans can come and see the history of this great place in the near future. So thank you. I love this place. I love Texas. I'm blessed to be your Lieutenant Governor, and God bless all of you. Thank you all.
Did you notice how much I had to lower this, Lieutenant? Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words, and we're going to hold on to them. Now for our first unveiling. At this time, I would like to introduce a very special woman in this city. City Councilwoman Rebecca Biagran. Going to introduce her as she walks to the exhibit panel. Councilwoman Biagran was born and raised on the south side of San Antonio and descends from one of the most famous Alamo defenders, Jose Toribio Lozoya. Councilwoman Biagran has a deep commitment to helping build communities that provide opportunities for our fellow citizens so that they can achieve their fullest potential. She is a great leader and has proudly served on the City Council for the past years. Recently, she was appointed by Mayor Nirenberg as Tri-Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee and as a member of the Alamo Management Committee. And in this brief time, Councilwoman Biagran has done an amazing job, and I have to say that I'm so grateful for her leadership, and I'm so proud to work alongside her. Councilwoman Biagran was also honored by the San Antonio Women's Hall of Fame for her tremendous leadership and service to our city. At this time, let me introduce to you Councilwoman Rebecca Biagran.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Villagran. I am the City Council member for District 3, the south and the southeast side of San Antonio, which also encompasses the remaining 4 missions, San Antonio missions, that are part of our UNESCO World Heritage designation, like the Alamo. There are many important stories to be told today on this sacred site, as you have heard. And this is more than a location of a pivotal battle that became the transcendent point in history for Texas. This hallowed ground here, where we stand, and below tells so many stories of the community, of the state of Texas, and of the Americas. This story for me is personal, and the Alamo represents a place of my family. This is where my story is rooted and established. My ancestral line with Jose Toribio Lozoya, who was born here at the Alamo and gave his life defending this area, the only home that he knew. The structure replicated here is my family's home from 2 centuries ago. Like many others, Lozoya joined Seguin's company of Tejanos to defend his home. On February 23rd, 1836, he, his family, and the other Tejanos entered the Alamo, where 13 days later, they would make the ultimate sacrifice for family and for independence. His mother, Concepcion Lozoya, his young brother and sister were all spared as non-combatant survivors here at the Battle of the Alamo. We honor not only the Alamo today, but all of the families and all of our proud history. Now for the unveiling.
I heard there was a motion to help get additional funds from the state in order to complete the Alamo Master Plan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes, Lieutenant Governor. There you go. You got the support that you need. Now, Mayor Nuremberg, Commissioner Bush, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, if we can get y'all to begin ascending the stairs. Let me set the stage. February 23rd, Santa Anna's troops were spotted from the bell tower of the San Fernando Cathedral. The Texians and the Tejanos grabbed what they could and took off to the Alamo. They watched as their enemy poured into Bear. Santa Anna's courier offered the garrison an opportunity to surrender. Lieutenant Colonel William Travis noted a reply would be forthcoming. And it was. An 18-pound ball from the cannon replicated here. There was no mistaking the reply. No surrender, victory, or death. These events led to the birth of Texas. Let's give everyone who's participated another round of applause. And before we conclude, let me share the Alamo will soon launch a membership program called Friends of the Alamo. Members will receive expedited entrance into the church, invites to member-only events, including a preview of the Phil Collins collection. Becoming a member will help the Alamo support educational, historic, and preservation programs and ensure the future generations will have the opportunity to remember the Alamo. We hope that all of you will consider joining and that you invite your friends and family to do the same. It is one small way that each of you can support the past, the present, and most importantly, the future of the Alamo. And you can find this at thealamo.org. This concludes our ceremony, but in a few minutes, we will invite you to climb the stairs and get a closer look at the 18-pounder for yourself. Be safe, be kind, love one another, and may God continue to bless Texas.